Okay folks, we're going to start a new series here, and what you're looking at is an RCA 65U. It's a turntable and an AM radio. It was produced in 1946. I actually don't have it yet, but I want to show you what I do when I prep for a new piece of equipment coming in. As you can see, it's in relatively great condition. The seller indicated that it hums, so we know what that means. Usually it's the electrolytic caps, but of course we're going to do a full checkout when we get it. That's what the inside looks like. As you can see, the felt here is in really good condition. I don't know if it has a needle yet. And you can see the top looks really nice. And there's a logo inside. And I really can't wait to get my hands on this one. But what I want to show you is what I do before I get something. So what we have here is the schematic. Okay. So I went on to onto Nostalgia Air and got a copy of the schematic and printed it out. And of course the first thing you have to do is take a look around, familiarize yourself, take a look at the tubes, what's in there, all that kind of thing. And then generally what I do is I mark the regular capacitors and the electrolytics, and I've done that here. So everything that's yellow is a capacitor, everything that's pink is going to be an electrolytic. And I've also written the values down here to make it really simple, because it's really not a big radio, it's really small. You'll see here, which is interesting, I've got this blue indicating the ground. If you take a look at this schematic, take a look at that. So that symbol is for earth ground. In this schematic it's being designated to chassis ground, right? So if that's the case, what's this? And what's this? Right? Why do we have all these different ground points? Here's a ground symbol, but it's really not ground, right? So taking a look at this, I don't see a transformer. That's interesting. So all I can really think about is that this says that it's common -B wiring. Okay? So what that tells me is that the chassis ground is here. If I were to ground this chassis, let's say attach it to a ground pipe somewhere, this entire chassis would be live, 120 volts. I think. I haven't gotten the device yet, so I really don't know. But this tells me that I have to be extremely careful with this one, and make sure that I don't kill myself with the shock. So, this is just some of the stuff that I look at when I first get a device. When I get it in here, I'm going to take it apart and look at it and study it before I do anything. Obviously I'll get these electrolytic caps ready, because I believe I have those. But I'm going to go through this one relatively step by step as well. But the point I want to make here is take a look at the schematic before you dig into anything. I also have the resistors marked here with green, just to note that. And that's kind of what I'm doing on this one. So when I get the device, I will start to continue the video. But that's where we are. Alright, this thing, I can't wait to get it. Alright, you guys, I'll talk to you later. As soon as I get the device in, I'll record on top of this one and when we get started. Thanks. Well, friends, the long-awaited day has come, and I've got my new piece of gear here to restore. I want to walk you through some stuff. This is an RCA 65U, which is an AM radio and a turntable that plays 78s. Really cool, and I'll show you what the wood case looks like in a moment. I got it in today. I removed the radio, which is a very simple radio, as you'll see here. We'll walk through that in a moment. Remove the radio and I removed the turntable just to do an inspection. The initial reaction that I got was the tubes are good and it was humming, so that tells me that the filter cap is bad. And that's what I've done here. If you look on the schematic, you'll see there's an 80 microfarad electrolytic and there's a 30. Alright? And that goes right up to your output tube. So obviously I don't have a multi-cap here, a 3080, but I do have a multi-cap that's a 4070. And this came out of an Ampeg amp that I worked on previously. So what I did was I wired it up, and this is a 22 and this is 70. Okay, so I've got it wired up with alligator clips. Okay, and let's see what happens. I brought it up earlier and it was working well. We're going to bring it up again and see what happens. While we're waiting, this has a classic tube lineup from the 40s. So you've got a 12SA7, a 12SK7, a 12SQ7, a 5OL6 GT, and a 35Z5 GT rectifier. And you'll notice no transformer in this thing. Let's see what we get.
Patriots back out on the field, leading the game by a score of 7.
Okay. This one, actually, let me show you this too.
Came downstairs on the
has
field,
a tone.
cross Tucker.
Well, guys, not only did the Patriots throw the ball,
I'm turning it the wrong way. So it has a tone. So you see high tone, low tone. And then if I go this way, I have my turntable. So radio's working. Here's the electrolytic cap. Right? And everything's nice and connected well. But I want to explain something to you. So you heard me say earlier that there's no transformer. And I showed you on the schematic that we've got these weird symbols. So we've got this, which is chassis ground, and we've got this, which is really the common B wiring. Now normally you would look at this and say, that's ground, but not in this chassis it's not. And if you look over here, all the tubes are going to the chassis ground, right there, right? But a lot of the components on here are going to the B+, or to the common B wiring. So, a couple of things to note on that. If you look, for example, at these 3 capacitors in yellow, that's what's preventing you from getting a shock when you touch it. Those capacitors are isolating chassis ground from the common B wiring, right? So if those caps are open, you're going to have 120 volts on the chassis. Interesting, right? And what will happen is if you ground this thing, let's assume for a minute I take a clip here and I ground it to a pipe, okay? If you look at the schematic, what's going to happen is this chassis is going to be hot at 120, and I can touch this tuning capacitor and get the shock of my life. So, you know, it's an old radio, doesn't have a lot of the protection that you would expect, but something to think about. I also want to show you the antenna. Look at this antenna that it comes with. This is tucked inside the cabinet, which I'll show you in a moment. This is from 1946. It's some type of cardboard, and it has a loop antenna inside of it, and you'll see they've got connections soldered that go out to the antenna. And this thing tucks neatly inside the cabinet, and I'll show you what the cabinet looks like just about now. Really, really cool if you think about the innovation from 1946. I'm going to flip it over and I'll show you what the bottom looks like. Now you can see here that there's really not much to this thing. Interesting, it has a permanent speaker. There's the transformer. Got a bunch of wax caps which I'm going to replace. There's not a lot of room in there to work. I have a piece of wire right here which is cracked, so I'm going to need to replace that. And this power cord, someone did a chop job on that, so I'm going to have to replace the power cord. But you know, not a lot of stuff in there. It's pretty simple. There's a mica cap. We won't touch that one. We're just going to do the wax ones. I'll test out the resistors when the time comes and make sure they're good. I know the coils are good because I was just playing the radio. I've tested the tubes, as I said. All the tubes are really strong, actually. And this is my jury rig cap system here. It actually fits right in here. It's a firecracker. Let me see if I can find that and show it to you. So this is the firecracker that fits right under there. So I've checked and I can't find one that's 3080. So what I think I'm going to do, I've ordered an 80 microfarad cap with 450 volt, and the same thing with a 30. And I think I'm going to get a piece of PVC pipe, an inch pipe. This is an inch. And I'm going to try to make it the same length, and I'll stuff it, and I'll put hot glue on both ends, and I'll try to replicate what I have here so it fits into the chassis, because there's really not a lot of room under there. So that'll be something I'll have to think about. I may come up with another solution, but more to come on that. So let me grab the cabinet and show you what that looks like. Be right back. Alright, here's the cabinet. There's the front, RCA Victor. And here's where your radio knobs come out. Okay? And here's the top, where the turntable goes. You'll see they've got the RCA logo, perfect condition. And these are the slats of wood that go on the bottom underneath the radio. But this thing is really, really nice. Now I do notice I have a loose joint right here, so I'm going to have to glue that and clamp it and let it dry well. But the finish on this thing is pristine. Really, really nice. And it's really, really made well, considering it's from 1946. Not much damage to it. A couple of surface scratches that I could probably get out. A little bit of paint there, no problem. And this is going to be really, really nice when I'm done. Here's the other stuff that it has. That's it. The rest of the cabinet is pretty good. Let me show you the turntable. Alright, here's the turntable. This felt is in mint condition for its age. Look at this contraption. It's a selector for 10 and 12 inch records, and it spins. And it's got this little clip here, which rests the record on it, and it's an auto changer, so it'll cause the record to fall. Pretty interesting stuff. Again, pretty innovative for the time of year that this thing was built, 1946. There it is on 10. There is a needle in here. I haven't tested it yet, obviously, but I will. And these arms don't lift up very high, and I'll see if I can get under there. There is a needle right there, and hopefully it works. We'll find out. But I've got to get all the capacitors squared away first before I do that. Let me show you the bottom. Now, here's the bottom. Interesting mechanism. So there's your motor. We know the motor's good. Probably needs to be cleaned. I'll see what I can do there. This is your audio, and notice it's an RCA jack. RCA actually started using these in the 40s, so this is probably one of the originals. And this is the RCA jack for the audio. This is your power connection that goes to the turntable, to the radio. And there's a flywheel here that's coated in rubber, and the rubber is actually in decent shape. It's not broken and chipped and pitted. And it turns this little cam here, and that's what turns the turntable. Have to see if I can clean that. But look at this mechanism. I quite haven't figured it out yet. I could see a lot of caked on grease, which I'm going to have to figure out how to clean and re-grease this thing. But very, very interesting if you think about, again, 1946. One thing I haven't figured out yet is a lot of the metal on this thing. Right here. Let me turn this light off so you can see it. A lot of the metal on this thing is coated with like a yellow powder. See that? This one too. I don't know if it's a chemical reaction or what the powder is from, but it must be the type of metal it is and oxidation over the years. I don't really know. But a lot of the stuff has this yellow powder on it. It's not pollen. There's one right there. So I have to figure out what that's about. So the order of the day is going to be get my caps in, fix the radio, get that all buttoned up, and then I'm going to work on this. And I'm going to have to go through this and grease it and make sure it's all secure. I have to figure out what I'm going to do with this mechanism and clean it up because it's really gunky. And I have to see if this wheel is working well. I don't know yet. And we'll go through that process with you in the videos. So here you have it. It's an RCA 65U. Question: if you want to see me work on some of the capacitors or work on that PVC pipe I told you about for the electrolytics, just leave me a comment and I'll be happy to do it when I record it. If not, I'll show you the end result. It's really up to you. Anyway, that's it for now. This is Ron. Hope you'll enjoy this one as much as I will. Take care, folks.